2-week hiatus because of my wedding, and then coming back, and the first video I film is my April wrap-up was not my smartest move.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is For Pause in a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content, so if that's something you're interested in, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Today we're going to be talking about the books that I've read in April, even though it is 2 weeks late. So yes, like I said, I took 2 weeks off because of my wedding. My wedding was last week. And I really wanted to have like consistent content all the way through, and it just didn't happen. I had so many other things on my to-do list that filming and editing were not one of them. It's fine. Had I not just finished Veda, I could have done a better job of pre-filming. It is what it is. We will move on and we just have a couple of later videos. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Let's talk about my stats, because April was a crazy reading month. I participated in Realmathon. I participated in the Magical Readathon. You're gonna hear planes in the background, because apparently they're doing drills today. Love living near an Air Force base. All right. I definitely read more books in the first half of the month than I did the second half. I kind of hit a slump after Peace Talks for a little bit, but I did manage to read 18 books, which is massive. I read 4,645 pages. My average rating was a 3.83, so I had a relatively good month. As far as genres, I obviously read a ton of fantasy because we had Realmathon. I read 9 fantasy books, 2 graphic novels, 1 paranormal, 4 romance, 1 sci-fi, and 1 thriller. I read 10 books via audio. A lot of that was because of the Wayward Children. And then 4 ebooks and 4 books physically. Like I said, I had an average rating of 3.83. I had 2 5-star reads, 4 4.5-star reads, 3 4-star reads, 6 3.5-star reads, 2 3-star reads, and 0 2.5, and 1 2-star read. I think that's pretty good. A lot of that, again, reading The Wayward Children. It's gonna like kind of stack the statistics a little bit, but let's just talk about it. I did a mid-month wrap-up. I'll talk about it up there because anything that I talked about in that wrap-up, I'm just going to casually brush by on this one. In my mid-month wrap-up, I talk about the books in chronological order, in the order that I read them. In my end-of-month book, I will talk about them in the order of my least liked to my favorite book of the month. So, without further ado, let's do that. My 2-star book I did talk about in my mid-month wrap-up, and that was The Dragon's Bride by Katie Robert, so I won't talk about that one. It was an experience, that is for sure. My 3-star reads I also talked about in my mid-month wrap-up, and that was The Cleaners by Ken Liu. This was just a short story almost, which was a very loose Princess and the Pea retelling, kind of in this sci-fi dystopian world. It was really interesting, but it was so short. And then the Bromance Book Club, I also talked about quite a bit in my mid-month wrap-up, and I've also talked about it on live shows, so I'm not going to go into that. I had 6 3.5-star reads, and 4 of them I talked about in my mid-month wrap-up. This was definitely my biggest chunk of books. The first book that I gave 3.5 stars was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is the first in a sci-fi series, and I did talk about this one in my mid-month wrap-up. I gave 2 books in the Wayward Children series 3.5 stars. The first one was Down Among the Sticks and Bones, which is the second book, and the second one was Across the Green Grass Fields, which is the 6th book. Those are probably my 2 least favorite books in the series, so they get the lowest rating. I did talk about those in my mid-month wrap-up. I also did an entire weekend vlog of Peace Talks where I read the whole series minus the newest one. I didn't quite get to that one. And then the last 3.5-star read that I already talked about was Hooked by Emily McIntyre. This is a mafia-inspired romance, but it's a Peter Pan retelling. It was really good, and I will continue on with the series. The second one is a Lion King inspired. I don't know how that one's going to work. We'll see. Okay, and then I have 2 books that I read in the second half of the month that I gave 3.5 stars. The first one was Wingbearer by Marjorie Liu and Tenny Esakanian. This is a middle grade graphic novel. The art style is really pretty. It's very vibrant, but it definitely has a more comic style. If you look at something like this, there's just a lot of words on each page, and so I felt at times that I was kind of walking through mud to get through all of this dialogue, which is why it only got 3.5 stars. I liked the story, but it definitely was a little bit muddled and a little bit just like too thick, especially for a middle grade graphic novel. This definitely ended on a cliffhanger, and while I'm not like dying for the next book, I definitely will pick it up, especially if it comes out on like Hoopla or something. And then I also randomly picked this book up. I needed a thriller for a long car ride. I needed an audiobook. And so I figured, why not pick one of Cassidy's favorite books so I can get that extra like bonus point for Realmathon. So I picked up The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. This is not my favorite Riley Sager book, but it's definitely not my least favorite one either. This is very campy. It was kind of nostalgic because I worked at a camp for several years. I am very curious as to why there are no schedules and the kids can just like go off and do whatever they want. And they're like, okay, we're gonna go on a hike for an entire day. And I'm like, that doesn't happen at summer camp with high schoolers. So this is about a woman who is an artist, and she has a past. Basically, her cabin mates when she was a camper disappeared, and then she comes back to this camp as a kind of like counselor, and then all of the girls in her cabin also go missing. And so there's a really interesting like double timeline. You get like bits and pieces from the past and the present, and you're trying to see how everything is working out. This has a ton of red herrings in it, which I love. I love red herrings. My problem with it was that the person that like ultimately was the bad guy, like the behind it all essentially, was never on my radar. And so I felt like it was a little bit out of left field and a little bit like cheap of a reveal. I don't know. That was my opinion of it. But there were some really good parts of this book, so I had fun reading it. Like, is it my favorite thriller of all time? No. But it was fun. Moving on to my 4-star reads, I did have 3 of them, and 2 of them I did talk about in my mid-month wrap-up. The first one was Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This is V.E. Schwab's newest book. It's kind of like this haunted house mystery. It definitely has like Neverwhere meets Wayward Children vibes, and I had a lot of fun. It's also like just a really pretty book. Let me see if I can find there's just these like illustrations midway through a book. It's really, really pretty. So I recommend, like, the audiobook was good, but I'd also recommend, like, reading it as you go along with the audiobook. The second 4-star book that I've already talked about was Come Tumbling Down. This is the 4th book in the Wayward Children series, and this is kind of the follow-up to Jack and Jill's story, but there's, like, more characters involved with it, which is why I liked it a little bit more. I like the bigger group books, as you'll see a little down the road. All right, and then my third 4-star read was Let's Away by Darcy Little Badger. This is a YA kind of paranormal story. This is a story about an Apache girl who has the ability to resurrect the ghost of animals. And she has this ghost dog, which is absolutely adorable. She also tries to resurrect the soul of a dinosaur. Fun. Very exciting. But then there's also this mystery surrounding her cousin's death, who everyone thinks it's a suicide, and she does not believe that. So there's a little bit of like this mystery thriller thing going on as well. There's vampires, which I think was a fantastic. Like the lore around vampires is that you're only you can only be where you are welcome, which is why you're not supposed to put out a welcome mat, because then vampires can enter your house, according to the legend. And the vampires were the white people. If you see where I am going with this, it was brilliantly done. I will definitely read more from Darcy Little Badger in the future. This was a 5-star prediction. I'll link that video up above. It wasn't quite there. I think the pacing was a little bit off. But this was a debut novel, so I definitely think that in the future, she definitely has the potential to be an author that, like, I always rate 5 stars. So, great. Now they've decided to do road construction in front of my house. So, love that for me. Let's finish this out. I had 4 4.5-star reads, and 3 of them I already talked about. The first one was The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill. This was a reread for me. I love this graphic novel series. I really wanted to read the whole thing, and again, I just kind of got into a slump after Peace Talks, so I didn't continue on with it, but this one is adorable. And then there were 2 of the Wayward Children series books that got 4.5 stars. The first one was Every Heart a Doorway, which is the first one, which was a huge bump. I gave that one 3 stars the first time I read it. And then the second one was Beneath the Sugar Sky, which was the 3rd book in the series. And then another absolutely random book that I decided to pick up at the end of the month was There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. This is a serial killer romance. This is essentially If You by Carolyn Kepnes was a romance. That's what this is. There's the stalking, there is the like following her, there is the like sneaking into her apartment, all of that, but then sexy and smexy times. And I weirdly liked it, and I don't know what that says about me as a human. I don't know. Maybe I need therapy. More therapy. Maybe I should talk to my therapist about this. I don't know. This was good. I am going to read the second one. I am a little bit worried because I know that there are a lot of people that have been reading Sophie Lark that really, really loved this one and then really hated the second one. So we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to like it as much, but I have it. I also really love these discreet covers, so I bought the print edition. But yeah, I gave this one 4.5 stars. I don't know that I'm not recommending this book, especially not to everyone. But if you like the twisted, weird, dark romance, this might be one for you. I don't know. It's a weird book, and I don't really know how to explain it other than it is about two artists. There's definitely like a power dynamic there because he rents out the space to her because she's like a broke college student, like this gallery space. It's very weird. His whole thing is that like, do I want to kill her? Or do I want to have sex with her? It's a weird thing. I don't know how to explain this book. Sorry. Then I added 2 of 5-star reads. The first one I did talk about in my mid-month wrap-up. This is my favorite book of the Wayward Children series, and that is In an Absent Dream. This one is about the Goblin Market, and I think that like if I had my own portal world in this series, the Goblin Market would probably be the one that is the closest to like my world. So that's why I think I like that one. It is an origin story as well. And then my favorite book of the month, no one could have predicted. I was terrified of putting this book on my TBR and on categories, but that's City of Brass by S.I. Chakraborty. I already have bought Kingdom of Copper. I cannot wait to pick it up. And yeah, this is the first book in a trilogy. It is kind of Egyptian, Middle Eastern inspired fantasy. Do I really know what happened in the majority of the book? No, not really. I do feel like it's definitely like more vibes. But the writing style in this book is beautiful. The prose is absolutely gorgeous. There is an entire like half page just of like talking about how the rain is hitting the roofs and the sounds it's making and the smells. And I was just in love with that. This is also very politically based. It follows 2 POVs. One who is this like healer, and she's basically like being like pulled into this political royal thing because she can be a healer for them, and then another one who is like part of the royal family. Very excited to continue on with this series, and yeah, the Kingdom of Copper is also like way smaller than I thought it was. Like I think it's actually thinner than this book. I don't know, maybe it's deceptively thin. We'll see. But yes, this was my favorite book of the month. Don't know that it would make a favorite book of the year quite yet, especially because I still have 2 more books in the series to go. We'll see though. Okay, those are all the books that I've read in the month of April. I'm not going to do a May mid-month wrap-up because I've only read 2 books so far this month, and neither one of them were on my categories TBR, so I need to work on that. I apologize. We'll see what happens. Again, I wasn't taking punishments this month. So that is all I have for you today. I apologize for the delay in this video getting out. Hopefully we are back to our regularly scheduled programming. So yeah, thanks for sticking around, and I'll talk to you soon. That is all I have for you today. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video, and all of the other links to my social media will be in the description below if you would like to be my friend on any other platform. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.